past and getting the certificate. इंटरव्ह्यूमध्ये आम्ही सिलेक्ट करते ते पुढे टिकणार तर आम्ही आता इथं आहे. फ्री ऑफ देम सुपर कन्फर्म या
Hello.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, audio is breaking at my end.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
काम कर रहा है, बहुत काम करने लगा। एक और resume है, उसी की resume और
Seconds, kindly mute
document
yourself.
सब लगा के लिया ना।
Yes,
Hello.
sir. Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yes, yes, fine, sir. This is Dr. Kundan, sir.
Yeah, nice to see you. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, sir. Almost more than 80
Just to-
participants have joined, sir. Yes, sir. You take 1-2 minutes, then we will start.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Due to the technical fault, I can't turn on my camera because it's taking
Okay,
a lot
okay.
of, the bytes. So if you want, I can turn on, but
Okay, now it is.
no.
It looks okay, sir. Now it is coming,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, thank you.
As per your convenience, sir. No issues, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good morning, sir. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. How are you?
Thank you, sir. Fine, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Fine, sir.
I'm sorry for the 3 minutes delay because
No, it's okay,
yeah.
okay, sir. Okay, we can. So shall I start, sir?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for your kind support and your acceptance the request for delivering a lecture for this 5 days online Atal FDP program. And so today we have with us Professor Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Padmanabhan, sir. Very warm welcome, sir. And about the speaker, he is a senior member of IEEE since 2015. He has received a PhD degree in electrical engineering from the University of Bologna, Italy in 2012. He was an associate professor at VIT University from 2012 to 2013. In 2013, he joined the National Institute of Technology in India as a faculty member. In 2014, he was invited as a visiting researcher at the Department of Electrical Engineering, Qatar University, Doha, Qatar, funded by the Qatar National Research Foundation, Government of Qatar. He continued his research activities with the Dublin Institute of Technology, Dublin, Ireland in 2014. Further, he served as an associate professor with the Department of Electrical and Electronics Engineering, University of Johannesburg, South Africa, from 2016 to 2018. From March 2018 to February 2021, he has been a faculty member with the Department of Energy Technology, Aalborg University, Denmark. Since March 2021, he has worked as professor with the CTIF Global Capsule CGC Laboratory Department of Business Development and Technology, or Aarhus University, Herning, Denmark. Espadon has authored over more than 300 scientific papers and was the recipient of the Best Paper Cum Most Excellence Research Paper Award from IIT SEIC Con 13, ITCAT 16, IEEE EECSI 19, IEEE KenCon 19, and 5 Best Paper Awards from ITARI 16 sponsored lecture notes in electrical engineering Springer book. He is a fellow of the Institute of Engineers India, the Institution of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineers India, and the Institution of Engineering and Technology UK. He is an editor, associate editor, editorial board for referred journals, in particular the IEEE Systems Journal, IEEE Transaction on Industry Applications, IEEE Access, IT Power Electronics, IT Electronics Letters, and Wiley International Transaction on Electrical Energy System. Subject editorial board member, Energy Source, Energy Journal, MDPI, and the subject editor for the IT Renewable Power Generation, IT Generation, Transmission and Distribution, and Facts Journal, Canada. So thank you once again, sir, for accepting our request, and we are delighted to have you for today's session. So once again, thank you and welcome for your speech, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I am handing over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Could you please
Yes, sir.
confirm my voice is audible?
Yes, sir. It is audible, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay,
अच्छा
thank you.
दिसंबर से आ रहे
Participants, kindly mute yourself.
If it is audible.
About my screen is okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Hello, Kundan.
Yes,
Dr. Kundan?
sir. Yes, sir. Your
Okay.
screen is
Thank you.
visible.
Today, good morning to one and all, and thanks to Dr. Kundan for his invitation from his institution. And today, I'd like to present something on green engineering from the perspective of electronics, how we can adapt the fuel cell technologies and electronics integrated in real time from our own research activities, what we have been carried out in the past years. So here I'd like to present something on classifications of fuel cells, how it can be adapted for electric vehicles, how power electronics converter suits the needs on these powertrain application for high power as well as for low power applications, and different configurations we have been developed in real time from the scratch. I mean, with the basics, theoretical developments, then hardware implementation, and there is a comparison what are the configuration we have been developed and how it has been with some experimental validations. Of course, the challenges are very important. So 2050, we have to have a complete 100% renewable energy systems. In this case, transportation is a key point where emission is very high with CO2. So in order to overcome the fossil fuels for high power applications, definitely fuel cell is one of the strong competitor who can able to provide high power train application, because if you look at the power or if you look at the temperature, it can be adapted for various levels. Temperatures may be from minus 20 degree to greater than 800 degrees centigrade. Power may be less than 50 watts to less than 100 megawatts, and it can be applicable for small or large vehicles. That is very important. So, for example, if phosphoric acid fuel cell is used, then it can be adapted for a temperature between 1 kilowatt to 10 megawatt with a temperature between
Naveen
80 to
sir, he's
300
not
degrees
here.
centigrade. Could you able to hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hello?
It is audible.
Oh, okay. Because I got some crosstalk, so that's why. For example, if you have a zinc air batteries, in case of zinc air batteries, it can be adapted. If you look at the symbol, it can be adapted less than 50 watts. And of course, the temperature is very important. The temperature, it can be adapted between 0 to 80 degrees centigrade. So fuel cell has a big family, various power ranges, various temperature conditions, and it can be applicable for a small or large vehicle. For example, phosphoric acid fuel cell is adapted for large vehicles. Zinc air battery is adapted for small vehicles. So we have the complete power ranges from minimum power to maximum power with different levels of temperature, which can be adapted to various locations in the world. That's a pretty good solution to replace conventional fuels. Most important is electric vehicle. However, fuel cell based electric vehicle looks. So this is the internal structure. We are talking more on powertrain application. So we have a fuel storage, which is a hydrogen power. Hydrogen liquid will be stored through fuel reformer and fuel cells. We are converting all these liquid hydrogen into DC power. The power available at this point is very less or low power. So we need a DC-DC converter, which converts these DC power into high power. Then it is fed to a inverter which converts the DC to AC to run the motor, or we say technically propulsion of the motors are driven through these power electronics converters. Apart from that, we have luxurious need within the electric vehicle, for example, air conditionings, lightnings, protections, etc. Then we need additional DC-DC converter from fuel cell. It has to be powered through a DC-DC converter, and overall efficiency can be greater than 80% with application of power electronics. Whereas if you look at the fuel cells, the efficiency is limited to 60%. The modern trend, since hydrogen is very expensive, for example, it may cost $250 per kilowatt power when compared to the conventional fossil fuel is just $50. And hydrogen power station requirement is more fuel tanks stations, and its construction is very complex. Under this condition, we need to find a optimal solution. So we are developing batteries along with ultra capacitors to balance the heavy powertrain requirement from the fuel cell. So the cost can be reduced by using batteries and ultra capacitor. In batteries, we have lithium batteries. So lithium battery is also an expensive part, and the reliability and durability of these lithium batteries are limited to 8 years, even though it is designed for 15 years, depends on the usage and road conditions. So in order to compensate these batteries life and of course the cost, we are using ultra capacitors. So ultra capacitor is operated in parallel with the batteries, so we can able to reduce the price of the battery. Of course, the combination can reduce the requirement of fuel cell. The architecture is the same as like conventional fuel cell based electric vehicle. Additionally, we are using only the batteries and ultra capacitors. So in this case, the batteries can be charged during the dynamic braking when you are applying the braking, frequent braking of the electric motor, or during the running condition, the power can be fed to the batteries or an ultra capacitor, it can be stored. And during the peak demand, if there is a shortage from the fuel cell, the power can be pumped from the battery or ultra capacitor to the motor. Of course, for the luxurious needs of the electric vehicles. So all the cases, the power electronics converters can provide around 80+% of efficiency when compared to the fuel cell, which is just a 60%. And most important in comparison between the battery and the ultra capacitors, ultra capacitor doesn't require the state of the charge, so it can be charged from zero state to the maximum. And in the ultra capacitors, even with the AC grid, we can easily to charge the capacitor. And there is no lifetime, or what I can say, the stored energy can be exist for infinite time, because there is no any discharging time like a battery. So ultra capacitor is much flexible than a battery. Transportation is very important, heavy transportation. So in a heavy transportation, we need a DC microgrid within an electric vehicle. On the left and right hand side, we have a battery units between 600 to 700 volts, battery controllers, fuel cell as required because it's a main powertrain, and it is fed to a DC-DC converter to pump the power to the common point of coupling, which is a DC microgrid. Then we need an additional DC-DC converter which can power luxurious needs within the transportation vehicle, which is around 25 kilowatts. And on the right hand side from the left hand side from the DC microgrids, we need an inverter which converts these DC voltage into AC to make the propulsion of the motor and motor controllers. And of course, we need another inverter to power around 20 kilowatt AC loads. So there's a complete architecture of an electric vehicle, how it can be powered from a power electronics unit of perspective, of course, with the main powertrain from fuel and batteries. So power electronics play a critical role in all the cases in making a vehicle completely electric. So in this case, DC-DC converters has a peculiar role because it is making the high power train for driving the motors and luxurious needs from the power generation from the fuel cell, which is limited. And of course, the efficiency is restricted to 60%. In this case, we have two configurations in standard. We have non-isolated version and isolated version. In non-isolated version, we have 4 types, same applicable for isolated version also. So non-isolated means input and output is not isolated, they are coupled. Whereas in non-isolated version, in isolated version, the input port and output port are isolated by means of transformers or coupled inductors or a series of combination of or parallel combinations of tank circuit. So in this way, it is completely isolated between the input port and the output port. First case, in a non-isolation version, we have a possibility to have a common ground between the port 1 and port 2. Other possibilities, we can have a floating port on the output port. Third possibilities, we can have a series combinations or parallel combination of multiple converters between the input and the output port, where we can have a common ground. The same configuration can be splitted by having a floating ground on the load side. In case of isolation transformer, isolation converters is the same applicable. So we can have this ground common input and output, or we can have a floating ground on the output side. Third possibility is we can have a multiple cascading of tank circuits or transformers between the input port and output port. Also in this case, we can have a common ground. On the last case, we can have a floating ground. So these are the different combinations, 8 combinations of isolation and non-isolated version of the converter, each has a 4 peculiar types with the grounding point of view, as well as of course with the connection between the input and output port. In standard, if you look at the textbooks or in practice, so in standard we have a different power electronics converters which converts the DC power. So first converter is a boost converter where the output voltage is much greater than the input. It's a standard boost converter where the device is connected in parallel to the supply. The same configuration, by adjusting the diode, we can have a different configuration by shifting onto the negative cycle. So we can have the possibilities of 2 different configuration with inverting and non-inverting modes of the same boost converter where the output voltage is large. Second case, we can have a buck converter usually used for charging the batteries in an electric vehicle where the device is in series with the supply and where the output voltage is always less than the input. The same configuration we can have in a different reconfigured way by shifting the inductor to the negative direction. So we can have both inverting and non-inverting mode of operation for a buck converter. Last possibility, the same buck converter by rearranging the inductor and capacitors. For example, the diode is replaced by the inductor and the inductor is replaced by the diode, just shifting the components. So in this way, we can have another version of buck converter for charging the batteries. Of course, this configuration by adjusting the diode from the positive cycle to the negative cycle, we can have the sixth version. So these are the 6 types of DC-DC converters which are used for charging and of course for pumping the power to the DC microgrids, which can have a boost operation or the 4 different combination of buck operation where we have the output voltage is less than the input. The most important, these all converters, what is the drawback? We can't use the maximum power from the renewable energy which is connected on the input side. Since the duty ratio of these devices are restricted, for example, to 75% maximum, we can't go for 90% or 100%. 100% is not possible. If you are going more than 90% due to the short periodic spikes or peak overshoots or any non-linearity among the flow of current, the device can be broken. Of course, the components. So the wide range of operation is limited. Of course, there is more passive drops and it can create the efficiency comes down. To overcome all these effects, what are the possibilities to improve the characteristics of a power electronics converter? We can go for a different type. For example, we can use a switched capacitor model. So in case of switched capacitor model, is a simple configuration is shown here. 2 capacitors, 2 diodes in this configuration. So when the device is closed, the stored energy available in C1 and C2 will be delivered to the load side when the device is open in a parallel combination. So the voltage will be added up in case of a parallel operation. Similar such configurations are shown here. Many types are available. The last one I can explain you because we can have 4 devices across F capacitors and we can switch the devices mass product IGBT at different interval and we can store the energy at different levels. When the device is open, we can deliver to the load as a large voltage. So we can able to get a very high gain from the existing renewables which are connected from the inputs. In this combination, we can have different modules. For example, we can cascade the multiple converters in parallel and we can deliver the power to the load. So it's a parallel combination. Other possibilities, we can have a series combination where all the passive components, I mean the switched in capacitors are connected in series. Then it is controlled by a MOSFET S on the load side. So we can deliver a high voltage also in these 2 combinations. So the possibilities are series and parallel as a basics of electric circuits. Other possibilities, we can use a switched inductor configuration. So in case of switched inductor configurations, we can have 2 inductors and for these diodes controls the flow of current. When the device is closed, the instantaneous energy which is available on the inductor L1 and L2 will be energized, and when the device is open, the instantaneous energy available here will be delivered to the capacitors and it will be stored and delivered to the load side. So we are using the instantaneous energy available from the inductor to boost the voltage in the converter. So we have different combinations of inductors. This is a peculiar version. We can have a parallel combination of inductors and capacitors in block sets. And when the device is closed, the instantaneous energy in L1 will be charging C2, L2 in C3, L3 in C4. When the device is open, all these capacitors voltages will be added up and delivered to the load. So in this way, we can have switched capacitor version or switched inductor version to enhance the capabilities of the converters for high gain operations. Other possibilities, we can go for multi-stage configurations. So in case of multi-stage configurations, the front end is a standard boost converter. You can have a look here. Then we are cascading multiple switched capacitors in blocks and we are delivering the high power to the load. Other possibilities, we can put it in series. So all the switched capacitors are connected in series by controlling from a boost converter. 2 boost converters are connected on the input side and controlled by additional 2 devices for the power flow. Then we are enhancing the power to the load side. So these configurations go up to a last stage, which is called as a multi-level converter on the load side by clamping the capacitors. You can see the capacitors from C1 to 2 N-1 levels are clamped at the output side, whereas the input side is a standard boost converter. And the diodes are used for controlling the currents. And by having clamping diodes at the load side, we can able to have high voltage on the load. So this is a specific configuration, and we call it as a Cockcroft-Walton module because it has a multiplier by using multi-level voltage stages by using capacitors. But the configuration is a standard on the input side is a boost converter. So the voltage is boosted up by clamping multi-level capacitors at the levels. So we developed many power electronics converters in our research activities, in particularly based on switched capacitor-based family, switch inductor-based family, and the multi-level converter family, XY converter family. We are always comparing with the standard solution, which is a transformers and coupled inductor-based family. So in case of transformer and coupled inductor-based family is nothing but a resonant converters. So you look at the reliability, which is very average, cost is very high, efficiency is high, and advantage is that we can able to have a high power. Of course, soft switching is required because we need to have a 0 volt switching or zero current switching. And by adjusting the turns ratio of the transformer, we can deliver the different power to the load. And disadvantage, it is bulky in structure and more losses due to the magnetic circuits, and it can be applicable only for heavy duty or high power applications. Whereas among all these solutions, we developed XY converter family. It has a high reliability, cost is average, efficiency is high. Advantage, we always use 1 or 2 devices, so it can be easily extendable to large structure. Disadvantage, obviously, we use large number of diodes. There will be a discontinuous current flow. Apart from that, we can applicable for both low and high power or low duty vehicles. So this is an advantage. So we can use for high power or low power applications. Apart from the configuration, whatever we develop based on switched capacitor family, it is having a high reliability, cost is average, efficiency is very good, and size is very small and modular. But the disadvantage, it has a poor voltage regulations because under different dynamic control, we have a poor voltage regulations, and we use large number of capacitors. So this case can be applicable only for a low power application. Switch inductor families, whatever we develop, is basically has a very, very high reliability. High cost is very high because we use large inductors, and efficiency is also good. In this case, we have a very good voltage conversion ratio and controllability by merging many converters within the input and an output. Disadvantage is we use large number of inductors, so it is having a performance at the poor performance at very high power. So it is applicable only for low power application. We also develop a converters on multi-level converter families. So the reliability is average in this case because we put a lot of capacitors on the load side. Cost is very high and efficiency is also very high. And we need advantages. We don't want any balancing network. It is self-balanced, and we use a very low number of devices. So devices always use very minimum. Disadvantage, we use large number of capacitors and diodes. So there is a possibility of discontinuous current here more. And this is applicable for heavy duty vehicle. So in comparison, I can say when compared to the standard solution, which is in the middle, which is number 3. So whatever the configuration we developed, XY family suits the match of both high power and low power application. If you are looking for low power applications, switched capacitors, switched inductors, they could be a good choice, but it depends on the requirement of the consumers. For example, other parameters is very important. If you look at multi-level converters, they are highly applicable for heavy duty or high power applications. Some examples, how we are developing all these electronics converters in real time. So first we introduced a 3-state power electronics converters. So in real time, we are looking for a microgrids. Either it can be a standalone model because we don't want to connect to the grid and make it pollution. So the renewables are mostly from fuel cell stacks, PV, wind of course, and batteries. So because when there is a peak power of generation, we store in the battery, and the maximum power requirement from the load demand is very high. We pump the power from the battery to the load. So the voltage requirement on the input side of the renewable is like a battery model. We are using between 24 to 48 volts. On the load side, we are having an applications of electric vehicles, charging, DC microgrids, DC homes, and of course we can able to pump the power to the existing AC grids. So the voltage requirement on the common point of coupling is varying between 400 volt to 800 volt, even go to 1000 volts plus in marine transportation systems. So in this case, we need an appropriate power electronics converter which balance the two different potentials. For these targeting application, we developed a converter which is called, as I stated, three-state hybrid DC-DC converters. Why it is called a hybrid three-state converter? Because we have three different MOSFETs, X, Y, and Z, and three MOSFETs are turn on and turn off at different instants, so that we call it as three-state. If you look at the converter very closely, the load side is a standard boost converter. On the input side, we have an inverter. On the inverter, each leg of the device, one device is replaced by inductor. So LX, second leg, it is by LY. It's like a semi-controlled converter. A semi-controlled converter we taken and merged with the standard boost converter, and we find a new solution. And these capacitors and diodes are incorporated. Two reasons: to control the current. The diodes are used to store the energy from the inductor. We use the capacitors X and Y. For example, when the device is closed, the instantaneous energy from the LX will be delivered to CY. Of course, LY will be delivered to CY. The addition of the combination will be delivered to the load side boost converter, so that we get a very large voltage at the output. So it's the basics. We keep the basics of circuit theory and converter configurations, and making some few adjustments. We are getting a very good performances for real-time applications. Most important is, once the converter is designed, we are already verified everything with theoretical background. Here I didn't show you because of the time constraint. But most important is the benefits. We are trying to use only the renewable which are connected on the input side, saying a percentage, 10% to 60%, or I say 60% of the conduction period or duty cycles of the three devices. So the maximum 60%, what we try to pump the power from the renewable, we are getting a gain like 42 times. This is very good when compared to the existing solutions. All the existing solutions are compared, of course, the recent converters, but the proposed configuration, which has a very high gain, 42. Once we design the converter with a verified with the theoretical modules and the gain factors, then we are testing in real time. So as expected, the voltage generated near to 400 volt, which is shown here. And this is the voltage across the diode, which is working as a forward biased condition. And this is the voltage across the MOSFET, which is around 185 volt, which is increased from the voltage of 24 to 48 volts we kept as a standard models. And the most important is the current through the inductor. They are very periodic, smooth, and there is no any short spikes, because these current can affect very easily the characteristics of PV panel. Of course, the durability. So if the PV panel is designed for 25 years or 15 years, because of this current with the I'm sorry, irregular characteristics or with short spikes, they can be easily damaged. Of course, the fuel cells are very sensitive. Of course, the batteries. The most important, we have to keep these currents within limit of a standard 5% ripple content given by IEEE standards. If you look at the losses generated by the three-state converter is shown here. The losses by the switches is between 17 to 16%. Diode is between 5.2 to 4.8%. Capacitor, which is 6%. Inductor 9%, because these all has internal resistance, and these drops must be calculated before putting into the application. Apart from the previous configuration, we also developed a quasi Z source converter, which is controlled by a single switch. If you look at very closely, this is a standard boost converter, the load side. Between the input and the load side, we included a switched inductor along with the capacitors. So when the device is closed, the instantaneous energy available in the LX will be delivered to C1 and C2, and the potential difference of instantaneous energy available in the LY and L2 will be delivered to the capacitor CY as a series addition. So all these voltages will be delivered to the boost converter on the load side. We get a very large voltage. The most important in this case, we are using different capacitors. So the capacitor voltage is very important, particularly from C1, C2 and Cy. So we are looking at the characteristics of the capacitors. The capacitor C1, C2 and Cy, they have the same transient period and peak overshoot. That's very important, very smooth rise. And according to the theoretical background, each capacitor also generates the voltage requirement. Then we are looking very closely at the steady state value for the ripple content, which is a fluctuation of the DC voltage. First capacitor C1 is around 1 volt. Second capacitor is around 0.5 volt. Third capacitor is Cy is around 2 volts. So they all obeys according to the IEEE standards of 512 to have less than 5% ripple. Then we are looking at the utilization factor when all the renewables which are connected on the input side, we are trying to utilize between 10% to 30%. So 30% we get a gain margin like 22 times, which is very high when compared to the existing solution. So we are using only 30%. The most important always the dynamic behavior, because no load is constant. Even in an electric vehicle, we are going to drive in a medium speed, high speed, of course, braking, all the cases. Even in DC microgrid home applications, each home doesn't going to have the same power. It is going to be regulated, but the power electronics converter need to match and deliver the power requirement. So we try to regulate the power at a different level of the output, from a maximum value to a minimum value designed value, whereas we kept the input voltage of the renewable constant around 30 volts. And this is the regulation of the current on the input side of the inductor, very smooth and periodic and varied according to the load requirement. And this is the load current as it undergoes with the load variations, very smooth and periodic. If you look at very closely, we are not getting exactly 400 volt, which is around 395.2 volt, because we have switching losses, conduction losses, and passive effect, EMI effects. So dropping all this, we are getting 395.2 volt, which is pretty good. And we are regulating to a minimum value around 206. Whereas all the voltages are kept at 30 volt during all these regulation conditions. And current through the inductor is shown here, which has a peak value between 16.59 ampere to a minimum value of 4.67 ampere in 4 different periodic variations. So all the cases, the current regulated very smoothly according to the load requirement. Whereas the load current regulated between 1.22 amperes to a minimum value of 0.64 amperes as per the loads. The most important how we are doing all these regulations. If in order to get a 395.2 volt, we need to keep the two devices. First device for 50% conduction, second device for 35% conduction. The last case, if you want to get 206 volts, we have to keep both the devices 35%. This is the experimental setup. You can see the size of the converter, which is very compact. And for example, if there is any failure, we can able to easily replace the complete block set of the converter module, or each component is possible because these components are designed based on the availability of the components readily available in the market. And this is the complete view of the experimental task has been carried out in real time with advanced digital scopes for capturing all these results through FPGA based control unit to control the power electronics converter. So here again, we have shown two different power levels, 250 watts and 350 watts. The most important, the results shown here is to see the current through the inductors. The first case, which is around 4.71 amperes, second case is 6.86 amperes. So it's very periodic. The ripple contents shown here are very smooth and there is no short spikes. And of course, they are very periodic in nature, so that all the renewables which are connected on the input side of the converters, of course, the load are well protected. Continuing the experimentations, we have developed also a modified CEPIC converters. This is a standard CEPIC converter which is available in the literatures. If you look at the configurations, we have introduced only two diodes, one capacitors and one inductor. Then this configuration become a new configuration which is able to produce very high voltage on the load side. So the same configuration we are adjusting only on the levels between the input and output, and we are getting good performances. So when the device is closed, the energy in LX will be delivered to C1, LY will be delivered to C2, and the combination addition of these two voltages will be delivered to the load side boost converter. So we get a very large voltage. The most important is the losses. Once the converter is designed, the switch is giving around 47% losses, diode between 13 to 12%, LX which is giving around less than 10%, whereas the Ly is giving like greater than 1% losses. Capacitor C1 is giving around 5%. The combination of LZ, C2 and C3 is giving around 0.4%. So this is a complete distribution of the losses. About the most important is the power regulations. So if you look at the power regulations, the power is regulated between 16 to 100 watts. Low power application we tried. Near to the 100, we are getting 91.4%. It's not near to 96 or 97 because all these components are rated for high power, and we are trying to figure out at low power in the laboratory scale for various protection and safety reasons. That's why the efficiency comes down to 91.4. If it is operated at rated conditions, obviously the efficiency might go to 96 to 97% as expected. And once all these calculations is done, we are testing in real time. So input sides, we are keeping like a battery module around 24 volts. And the load current generated is around 0.51 ampere. And this is the current through the inductor. Very smooth, no short spikes. And the ripple contents are within limitations of less than 5%. And load voltage generated around 172 volt, which is pretty good. So we call it as a continuous conduction mode or linear mode. Also be tested in nonlinear mode, which is also called as a discontinuous conduction mode technically. So in this mode, because these components are inductors are highly nonlinear, and we are also using more diodes, so discontinuity is highly occurrence in a DC-DC converters. So when you are increasing the frequency beyond the set value of the design frequency, we are getting these uh, nonlinear behavior or a DCM mode. We can be easily visualized from the peak levels of the diodes, which goes to two levels, 92 volts and 152 volt. Current through the inductors goes to the peak and comes back to the zero, which also a clarification of showing all these DCM mode. And even under this condition, we are getting a voltage around 92 volt. So this is very important. So even in during a linear operation, we are getting like 172 volts, and even during a very highly non-linear condition or DCM mode, we are getting 92 volts, which is pretty good to drive the electric vehicles. Further, we also developed some polyphonics converters, which are most important configuration from the basics. If you look at the inputs, it's a standard half-bridge inverter. Two devices are simultaneously controlled. We get a half-bridge inverter. On the load side, we coupled switched capacitors in block sets. And these block sets can be increased from one stage to n stage. And we are connecting to a multi-level inverter, which converts the DC power into AC. And we can pump the power to the AC motors or AC grids. On the intermediate stage, we can pump the power to the battery and we can store. During the peak demand, we can pump the power from the battery to the load also. In this case, a number of stages is very important, and the number of stages varies from 0 to 6. When there is 0 stage, it's become a standard inverter, half-bridge inverter. When you're going to the number of stages to 6, it requires 12 diodes and 12 capacitors. About the utilization factors play a critical role, how to utilize all the renewables connected on the input side. So we're trying to look at from 10% to 90%. During 90% of utilization of renewable energy, we are tracking the maximum power, full range. What is the advantage? We are not using any intermediate stage transformers or coupled inductors or technically it is called as a tank circuits. So it's a magnetic free circuits. The currents are continuous. We are using only one or two devices so that it is easily to control by any DSP or a digital signal processor with high sampling rates. And failure conditions is easily replaceable in the stacks or the complete unit of the converters because they are very cheaper in price. Readily components are available in the market, what we choose. And the voltage gain is obtained either by the simple combination of one devices or few passive components like capacitors and inductors. So they are very easy reconfigurable structures. The most important is what are the challenges going to be in electric vehicles and renewable energy systems. If you want to improve the efficiency of an electric vehicles or renewable energy systems, all the mechanical and hydraulic parts needed to be replaced by electric units. Particularly in EV, it should be by an electric motors. Now we are using BLDC motors or synchronous motors for high speed and sensitive speed control. And of course, the most important is the powertrain. So we have to replace these all IC engines by appropriate fuel cells and battery pack, which can improve the efficiency very high. All this efficiency mainly depends on the electronics component what we choose, what are the control strategy we adapt, and how we are controlling the electromagnetic interference effects. How to increase the durability of the EV, that is most important. So in case of electric vehicles, we are using battery as a module to compensate the price of the fuel cell. So in batteries, we are using electronics converter for charging and discharging, mean to apply for the load requirements. So in this case, the most important, the electronics converter able to maintain the state of the charge for charging and discharging, and with reduced ripple contact, less than 5% is saying by IEEE, but we follow less than 1%. So the current is very smooth. There should not be any spikes or non-linearity so that batteries can lose their life. Again, all it depends on the selection of proper semiconductor devices. How we are choosing the semiconductor devices plays a critical role. Apart from that, these electronics converters are subjected to very high vibration. For example, in electric vehicles or under dynamic conditions of running, there is a lot of vibration. So we need to have a proper vibrational arresters. Apart from that, the converter will handle large amount of flow of current. So there is a possibility of thermal breakaway within the circuits, within the tracks, etc. So we need to provide a proper cooling system to overcome the problem of thermal breakaway. Other challenges, again, within the electronics engineers to choose appropriate converters for the application. At the same time, we need to have a very high efficiency. But the expectation is to have low cost, small size, and rigidness. How to increase the efficiency of the EV or renewables? It's most important. Again, it all depends on the digital signal processors. Along with the adoption of modern AI algorithms using Internet of Things sensors, big data for keeping all the large volume of data in the server by using cloud computing. Then we are using machine learning algorithm for energy management. So nowadays, all these digital signal process makes the electric vehicle very effectively to coordinate between electronics converter units and renewable energies so that the vehicle is more increased performances. How to increase the safety in an electric vehicle? So as I said, the most important in case of a motor, we need to look at the stator, rotor, and bearing faults by using wireless based sensors, particularly based on IoT sensors. Then estimate all these parameters. The production can be done because all the programs is done already in fast acting digital signal processor within nanoseconds or microseconds. Set commands will be executed when the vehicle faces any catastrophes or faulty conditions. Particularly now in electric vehicles, we are using now ABS systems and airbags, and these are controlled by electronic unit called uh, high power actuators. They are nothing but DC-DC converters. So even if it's failed, we can easily replace the actuator by a new component because the price of the semiconductor devices and classic components are cheaper and readily available in the market, and they are compact in size. How to overcome overall cost of the EV? That is very important. So in case of EV, we have to look at the electronics units and conversion power modules with their components, and we have to decide the cost and reduce the component size. At the same time, the consumers always look for luxurious needs at cheaper price. So this is a big challenge for electrical power electronics engineers. And all these costs depends on again the selection of a power conversion unit. At the same time, we have to maintain the reliability and high quality performances. In conclusion, in the future, fuel cell is going to replace all the conventional IC engines by fuel powertrain along with power electronic circuits to have a flexibility between the power flow using batteries and electric capacitors. In this case, DC-DC converters play a critical role with a compact size and reliability and efficiency. What are the converters we designed? They're particularly capacitors, switched inductors, multi-level converters, and XY family. All suits the needs of requirement of for low-duty vehicles, heavy-duty vehicles, or of course the parallel combinations. All the cases, what are the converters we developed? Mostly focused on low cost, high efficiency, and we use minimum number of components. The structure is modularity available and easily controllable because we use one or two devices, and high sampling DSPs can be adapted very for the easy control. Among the configuration, whatever we develop, it would be very effective when we use hybrid DC-DC converters or multi-port converter where we can have multiple inputs and we can deliver the constant power to the load requirement of the electric vehicles or of course for the common point of coupling for the charging of electric vehicles. So all these cases, we have developed many power electronics converters in the past, and we try to match the requirements to have a low cost. Of course, all these systems doesn't have any emissions, so they are eco-friendly and zero emission. And all these converter fits the requirement for a high power propulsions of fuel cell vehicles. Thank you, one and all. If you have any specific questions, I'm happy to respond. If you have any specific question, I'm happy to respond. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if you have a specific question, I'm happy to respond.
What happened, sir?
If you have any specific question, I'm happy to respond.
Okay, sir. Okay. Okay, dear participants, you may ask question if you have, please. Any questions from audience side?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please.
Yes.
I think we have a question in the chat box.
Yes.
It is from P. Saini Ranjan Kumar. The question is how to overcome challenge of high cost of fuel cell.
I'm not inside the design of fuel cells, but I can give you an opinion because now the cost of hydrogen power generation is very high. As I said, $200 per kilowatt hour. So when compared to IC engines, so modern technologies are going on simultaneous research activities for developing new, fuel cell based power generation. So that is a different topics. We work more on application part. So we are working how to utilize all these renewable energy very effectively, very efficiently for real-time application on electric vehicles or for renewable power generation. So we are not inside the fuel cell constructions.
Thank you, sir. We have another question from Gurumurti Vaida. The question is alternative fuel like hydrogen and modular placement, automated charging options.
Could you please repeat automated charging options?
Automated charging options, yes, sir.
Because we have already shown that these electronics converters can charge the batteries because fuel cell cannot be recharged. Fuel cell is a power generation. It converts the hydrogen liquid into DC power. But we have ultra capacitors and batteries, which are in the intermediate stage between the powertrain and through the power electronics converters, we can automatically charge the battery during the running condition. Of course, during the dynamic braking, because when you brake the motor, regeneration energy is available that will travel through these inverters and we can charge the batteries automatically. Did you got my answer or you need more explanation if you want specifically?
Murthy,
I
if
think
you are there, Murthy Vaidyaji, if you are there, you may ask, you may unmute yourself and you may interact with the audio speaker if you are here. I think he's not responding. Any more questions from audience side?
Hello.
Yes.
So I want to understand how we can do the charging options. Suppose
I didn't get you. Like the voice was interrupted.
Yes. I guess some mic issue. You are muted. If you are Gurumurthy, then you are muted. Kindly unmute yourself. I think there is some problem, sir. Is his side.
Mhm.
Any more questions from audience? Alan,
I
you
see
may ask
one
a few
question.
questions.
I have one question I can see in the chat.
Yes, sir.
The nature of how to overcome the challenge of explosive nature of fuel cell so that the people can adapt or move towards fuel cells. Explosive. Battery is also explosive. So we have a proper cooling systems, fault protection networks. So in batteries, the sensors are adapted even in each cells for monitoring the BSS. So in batteries, we are not having the overall power conversion sensors only for the sensing the voltage and current. The parameters are sensed in each cells for the production purposes nowadays in a rack. So it's well protected, but there are opportunities for failures because we can't have a system with 100% protection. So when the batteries are well protected, obviously fuel cells vehicles are well protected because we are using in practice. I didn't show you the real applications in fuel cell today because already it is in practice in US. So there are cooling systems which can protect all these explosives, but it's not 100% because still we have to look for more applications on the production part. So at present in applications, fuel cells are well protected, and of course there are some cases which has to be investigated in the future, but the production is well safe to 90 to 95% for batteries as well as for fuel cells. Any more questions?
Excuse me,
yeah,
sir.
what is going to be the effect on the NVH when we drive a petrol or diesel? So there will be a lot of vibrations. So when it is a electrical vehicle, I don't think there will be that much vibrations. Do we have any standards for the NVH?
The vehicle's vibration sensitive control fully controlled by the motors. For example, the expensive motors like Volkswagen or Tesla, they use advanced motors which are BLDC motors, brushless DC motors or synchronous machines. So in this case, we will not have too much vibration because of the electric vehicle. But maybe the vehicle have a vibration because of the road conditions. So if the road condition is very good and already the vehicles are using very sophisticated motors, as I said, BLDC or synchronous machines, so there won't be any huge vibrations. For electronics converters, yes, we need to provide some vibrational arresters to overcome these problems. So it's as a part of the security network. So to keep the safety margin. So always they are well packed in a pack system, and vibrational arresters along with the thermal arresters, thermal barrier control cooling systems are provided because there is a large flow of current. So in this case, today electric vehicles are very sensitive, very smooth because they have a very sophisticated motor, but the price also increases. Did you got my answer? Is okay?
Yes. Gurumurthy ji, you may respond.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your answer.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Sir, I would
Yes,
like to
please.
ask one more question, sir. Sir, in this case, fuel cell hybrid electric vehicle, in this, there is a chances of charging the fuel cells, or we are going to replace or refill the fuel cells, or there is a chances that we can charge from the grid these types of vehicles.
Sir, actually, he is a BTech student, sir, BTech final year student. That's why he has such type of question. You may answer, sir. Please.
Okay. For an electric vehicle, we can charge at present from the grid only because single phase AC supply available in the home. We have a AC voltage, which will be converted into DC, and we are charging the battery within the electric vehicles. So grid connected means when you need to charge the battery, you are getting the power from the grid. Alternative options, because in the future we are looking at not a grid connected system, then these are renewables which are connected not from the grid. So they are called as a islanded mode, or it's free from the grid. So whatever the renewable energy available within the society or a particular state or town, we take that renewable energy, for example, photovoltaic panels, batteries, and fuel cell, and we make a local grid which can pump the power for the charging the electric vehicle. So, for example, if you have a fuel pump station, in the future, the fuel pump station will be replaced by charging station or hydrogen pump station. So we'll have in the future both hydrogen and charging station together in a same place instead of petrol pumps. So in this case, we need a power. So we need to keep local batteries, local PV, local fuel cells, and local windmill maybe power. And in if it is not sufficient, then we'll get from the grid. So this is the arrangement for charging the electric vehicles. We can't connect directly in a running condition to a grid. Only during the off condition, during the night times, we can charge the electric vehicle, or whenever it is required, we can charge it. I'm sorry. Any questions?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
I have a question, sir. Sir, in case of the charging stations in which the renewable energy sources and battery, a combination of renewable energy sources and batteries are used for the charging of electric vehicles, so will it be feasible for using another source of electricity storage instead of batteries, such as the liquid air energy storage? Will it be feasible for applications for EV charging, sir?
At present, we have only two possibilities. One is because batteries are within the electric vehicles, we need to charge the batteries. So one possibility is wired charging. Another one is wireless charging. So wireless charging is still not implemented because it's very expensive. On the running condition, also from the tracks, we can able to get the power. Then we have to make a separate tracks, and it has to be powered. And the construction of such wireless technology is very expensive. And at present, the efficiency also very much limited to less than 88% from the point of grid to the power, the converter on the onboard electric vehicles. So these alternative mode of charging electric vehicles are under studies, but still now for sure we don't have a prominent solution except wired charging network.
Thank you, sir.
Any more questions, please, from audience side? Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
One more question. Sorry for asking again. See this nuclear power, like Baba Atomic Research Center and all, they develop some nuclear power, nuclear energy and all. Can we use that one for this charging?
No,
No.
these are low power because nuclear power station is a large power. All
No,
this power connected to
but
yeah, need to be
India,
connected to the grid.
Yeah, grid. From there you can use it, no?
Yes, that's why I said we can take the power from the grid and we can pump to the charging station is one possibility. For example, we can't have a grid to your remote areas. For example, in Orissa, the remote areas are not well connected in with the grid. So the simple idea is to have a islanded mode of converter power supply. So when there is no grid, what we can do? Or the most prominent solution, self-power generation. So when you're thinking about a petrol pump station needed to be replaced by a charging station in the future for hydrogen and batteries, then it's better to have the local energy as support. Then we don't want to think about the grid because when you're working with the grid, we have to use all these electronics configurations and we pump high frequency signals to the grid and it is not good. So they are called as harmonics. So we inject more harmonics to the grid, of course, more reactive power. So this is also very dangerous for the grid. So in this case, most important is isolated network is very good, but when the power shortage is available, we can also get the power from the grid. So it should be the optimal solution.
Sa, we have another question in the chat box. This from Jayabrata Maiti. The question is, I've heard that when an EV battery is discarded from its EV application, it retains 70 to 80% of its capacity. How that can be used in other applications and how reliable will it be?
Batteries, as we are using for a long time, there is a regulation from US which is given by Road Transportation Society from US. So for medium vehicles, they have a guidelines like 1,000. For long term, there is a guidelines for 1,600. I have to look the guidelines, but there is a guidelines. It means that charging and discharging. So when we are using a battery for 8 years, according to the applications, it loses reliability. The charging capability comes down very down because it is used designed for 15 years, but we are using for 8 years. So we continuous charging and discharging. So after the battery is removed from the application, it cannot be very effective what stated like 72%. So that's why we are thinking about recycling possibilities of the batteries. So that is a major goal we are focused. All these batteries become a scrap, then it's going to be like a big task as like now we have a plastic. So because everybody in a home, we have 4 vehicles, 3 vehicles. So all these batteries will be like in the future will become like PV, the plastics. So the recycling is the only option, but also another research is going on how to improve the characteristic of used batteries. So in this ways, we don't want to throw the batteries, but these all under only a discussion on research, but not in real time.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, sir. This is Dr. Kundan. I have few questions, sir. Like the country like India, where we are trying to adopt the EV, and for that, of course, we need to install the various charging stations as well as fuel pumps stations like that. So, sir, do you think like okay, we have to install the fuel cell stations as well as charging stations. So, do you think the battery charging station we should go or the India will be going faster to install the battery charging stations or such that later on battery swapping technology, these things we can adopt rather than going for fuel cell like like a fuel charging, fuel refilling stations like that, sir?
What I read from the articles in the Indian perspective use at present, the government of India declared already to replace all the two-wheelers and three-wheelers by batteries. So, and also the battery cost when compared to other countries in India is much cheaper and charges, even though technology is a shared concepts. I think at present all these motors which is used in two-wheelers and three-wheelers or technological transfer from Canada. So Professor Ali Hamadi has developed the BLDC motor, which are used now in two-wheelers, very cost effective, like 48 volt we get because batteries cannot have 1000 volt in a vehicle, small two-wheelers or three-wheelers. So 48 volt standards. So these 48 volt standards still we get a speed control and a long duration of application. So it is in a good progress in three-wheelers and two-wheelers. But India at present is not fully moved towards four-wheelers or to the uh, high power electric trains. Recently, I have seen also government of India has made a agreement with Japan and US to make all these trains, fuel cell based trains, so that conventional IC engines is not required, diesel engine is not required in the maybe in the future, but they already done a contract to enhance the hydrogen power application. So because India is a very big country, it cannot be implemented in a few months or a few years time. It has to be a strategical plan, like a decade or a five. Otherwise, it's very difficult. But at present, the progress in two-wheelers and three-wheelers are very, very high. And maybe the challenge in the future, as I said, how to handle these batteries, trap batteries. That is a big challenge for any countries.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Okay, a few more questions are there, sir. Like, can you elaborate on efficiency improvement when switching from silicon to gallium nitride in power electronics?
Yes, because we are having gallium nitride. Gallium nitride device is having much switching losses or internal resistance of GaN is very minimum, and we can able to increase the switching frequency to very high level when compared to MOSFETs or IGBT. For example, if I want to reduce the capacitor requirements and inductor requirement in this configuration, I need to increase the switching frequency. If I go for megahertz, in this configuration, we are using 50 kilohertz as the switching frequency. If I can't go for the megahertz because the devices never support because they are silicon carbides, MOSFETs. But if I am going to use a gallium nitride, yes, I can go for megahertz switching frequency and the current carrying capabilities are very high. Obviously, all these capacitors sizes and inductor sizes will come down. So when the component size is coming down, obviously the efficiency will go high because we'll have a minimum drop.
Okay, I hope Dr. Rafal, you can respond if you have.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for your information. I just wanted to know what is the number of efficiency improvement. Let's say, for example, we are using um, silicon in particular power electronic circuit, and we're using similar circuit with GaN, that is gallium nitride. What will be the power efficiency or the efficiency improvement?
For example, in sensitive application, we are targeting like 99.9% or near to 99%. Then gallium is the best solution. Silicon carbide, we can go up to, for example, in my case, we are getting 91.4% efficiency. So obviously there is a margin of 20% more improvement with GaN because the reason is high switching frequency, minimal, very minimal on-state losses. So your device is characterized based on two things. One is the on-state and off-state losses. It's because of the resistance within the devices and how it can handle high frequency. So when you have a device with minimal on-state resistance and off-state resistance and with high switching frequency, obviously the efficiency will increase by a factor more than 20% because it depends what type of application you are going. So GN obviously provides better efficiency, always greater than silicon for sure. That's why I
And
give an
what?
example. In my case, I got a 94%. I showed you in one of my slide. So you can see here 91.4%. If these devices are replaced by GaN, then the efficiency might be 97, 98 for sure. Still, it is not operated in a rated condition.
Mhm. And so, what must be the cost escalation of using gallium nitride? Is it feasible? Can we use it for applications?
Yes, we are moving in power electronics now from the strategy is that we are moving from silicon to GaN. There is no doubt at all because it's very reliable, fast active. Most important, the power electronics converter should react to any transient effects in a very faster manner, nanoseconds. So gallium is one of the very good device which can act to any perturbations or any faults That's why it's very important. So switching devices plays a critical role, because the switching devices is going to control the power flow from the input to the load or from the load to the input. So they have to be very fast effective.
Thank you, sir, for your brief explanation.
Thank you so much, sir. I hope we can stop here. So thank you once again, sir, for a nice presentation and accepting our request. Just I would like to share something, sir. Okay, just so please accept from our side, sir, a token of appreciation. Thank you so much, sir, for accepting our request. We will be in
Thank you
touch,
very
and I
much.
will be okay, sir. I will be writing the different like the other Atal remuneration process. I will be commenting. I will be sending the documents to your mail, sir. Okay.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day ahead. Wish you all great success. Bye.
Thank you so much, sir. Bye. Take care.